Welcome back, Truth Seeker. It is Thursday, May 12th, 2022. We're going to go over some of the top headlines. But first, I just want to read a little bit from the opening page of Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. I think in the near future, when I finish my own book, we'll read this cover to cover, bit by bit. But before we get into the headlines, again, if you're new here, this is GematriaEffectNews. I talk about gematria, which I learned about from this very book back in 2013. But I just want to read just a little bit of the opening page because I think it will reflect with a lot of people. So, the opening chapter is titled The Ancient Mysteries and Secret Societies Which Have Influenced Modern Masonic Symbolism. And actually, before I go any further, I probably need to tune up my audio settings. Okay, I should sound better now. All right, so again, the opening page of Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, opening chapter, The Ancient Mysteries and Secret Societies Which Have Influenced Modern Masonic Symbolism. And it goes on, when confronted with a problem involving the use of the reasoning faculties, individuals of strong intellect keep their poise and seek to reach a solution by obtaining facts bearing upon the question. Those of immature mentality, on the other hand, when similarly confronted, are overwhelmed. While the former may be qualified to solve the riddle of their own destiny, the latter must be led like a flock of sheep and taught in simple language. They depend almost entirely upon the ministrations of the shepherd. The Apostle Paul said that these little ones must be fed with milk, but that meat is the food of strong men. Thoughtlessness is almost synonymous with childishness, while thoughtfulness is symbolic of maturity. I might have misspoke. Let me read that sentence one more time. Thoughtlessness is almost synonymous with childishness, while thoughtfulness is symbolic of maturity. There are, however, but few mature minds in the world. And thus, it was that the philosophic religious doctrines of the pagans were divided to meet the needs of these two fundamental groups of human intellect. One philosophic, the other incapable of appreciating the deeper mysteries of life. To the discerning few were revealed the esoteric or spiritual teachings, while the unqualified many received only the literal or exoteric interpretations. In order to make simple the great truths of nature and the abstract principles of natural law, the vital forces of the universe were personified, becoming the gods and goddesses of the ancient mythologies. While the ignorant multitudes brought their offerings to the altars of Priapus and Pan, deities representing the procreative energies, the wise recognized in these marble statues only symbolic concretions of great abstract truths. In all cities of the ancient world were temples for public worship and offering. In every community also were philosophers and mystics deeply versed in nature's lore. These individuals were usually banded together, forming seclusive philosophic and religious schools. The more important of these groups were known as the mysteries. Many of the great minds of antiquity were initiated into these secret fraternities by strange and mysterious rites, some of which were extremely cruel. Alexander Wilder defines the mysteries as sacred dramas performed as stated periods. The most celebrated were those of Isis, Sabazius, Cybele, and Eleusis. After being admitted, the initiates were instructed in the secret wisdom which had been preserved for ages. Plato, an initiate of one of these sacred orders, was severely criticized because in his writings he revealed to the public many of the secret philosophic principles of the mysteries. Every pagan nation had and has not only its state religion, but another into which the philosophic elect alone have gained entrance. Many of these ancient cults vanished from the earth without revealing their secrets, but a few have survived the test of ages, and their mysterious symbols are still preserved. Much of the ritualism of Freemasonry is based on the trials to which candidates were subjected by the ancient hierophants before the keys of wisdom were entrusted to them. Keep in mind this book was written 1926. Well, it took him 2 years to write it. He says he began writing it January 1st, 1926, so he must have finished in 1928. For realize the extent to which the ancient secret schools influence contemporary intellects through those minds, posterity. Robert McCoy, a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, in his General History of Freemasonry, pays a magnificent tribute to the part played by the ancient mysteries in the rearing of the edifice of human culture. He says in part, it appears that all the perfection of civilization and all the advancement made in philosophy, science, and art among the ancients are due to those institutions which, under the veil of mystery, sought to illustrate the sublimest truths of religion, morality, and virtue, and impress them on the hearts of their disciples. Their chief object was to teach the doctrine of one God, the resurrection of man to eternal life, the dignity of the human soul, and to lead the people to see the shadow of the deity in the beauty, magnificence, and splendor of the universe. With the decline of virtue, which has preceded the destruction of every nation of history, the mysteries became perverted. Sorcery took the place of the divine magic. Indescribable practices, such as the Bacchanalia, were introduced. That's something we're going to need to research. And perversion ruled supreme, for no institution can be any better than the members of which it is composed. In despair, the few who were true sought to preserve the secret doctrines from oblivion. In some cases they succeeded, but more often the arcanum was lost and only the empty shell of the mysteries remained. Thomas Taylor has written, man is naturally a religious animal. From the earliest dawning of his consciousness, man has worshipped and revered things as symbolic of the invisible, omnipresent, indescribable, a thing concerning which he could discover practically nothing. The pagan mysteries opposed the Christians during the early centuries of their church, declaring that the new faith, Christianity, did not demand virtue and integrity as requisites for salvation. Celsus expressed on the subject in the following caustic terms. That I do not, however, accuse the Christians more bitterly than truths compel, may be conjectured from hence that the criers who call men to other mysteries proclaim as follows. Let him approach whose hands are pure, and whose words are wise. And again, others proclaim, let him approach who is pure from all wickedness, whose soul is not conscious of any evil, and who leads a just and upright life. And these things are proclaimed by those who promise a purification from error. Let us now hear who those are that are called to the Christian mysteries. Whoever is sinner, whoever is unwise, whoever is a fool, and whoever, in short, is miserable, him the kingdom of God will receive. Do you not therefore call a sinner an unjust man, a thief, a housebreaker, a wizard, one who is sacrilegious, and a robber of sepulchres? How do you say that word? Sepulchres? Sepulchres. Not sure that's right. What other persons would the crier nominate who should call robbers together? It was not the true faith of the early Christian mystics that Celsus attacked, but the false forms that were creeping in even during his day. The ideals of early Christianity were based upon the high moral standards of the pagan mysteries, and the first Christian who met under the city of Rome used at their places of worship the subterranean temples of Mithras, from whose cult had been borrowed much of the sacerdotalism. That's another word we don't use very much. Of the modern church. The ancient philosophers believed that no man could live intelligently who did not have a fundamental knowledge of nature and her laws. Before man can obey, he must understand, and the mysteries were devoted to instructing man concerning the operation of divine law in the terrestrial sphere. Few of the early cults actually worshipped anthropomorphic deities, although their symbolism might lead one to believe they did. They were moralistic rather than religionistic, philosophic rather than theologic. They taught man to use his faculties more intelligently, to be patient in the face of adversity, to be courageous when confronted by danger, to be true in the midst of temptation, and most of all, to view a worthy life as the most acceptable sacrifice to God, and his body as an altar sacred to the deity. Sun worship played an important part in nearly all the early pagan mysteries. This indicates the probability of their Atlantean origin, for the people of Atlantis were sun worshippers. Remember, the man who had the idea for America, Francis Bacon, who was big into gematria, he called America the New Atlantis. And as we know, at the same time this country was being created, so was the calendar based on the sun. Thanks to the Catholic Church. This indicates the probability of their... All right, we read that. The solar deity was usually personified as a beautiful youth with long golden hair to symbolize the rays of the sun. This golden sun god was slain by wicked ruffians who personified the evil principle of the universe. Again, the ruffians who kill the man holding the secrets to Solomon's temple, Hiram Abiff. It's the Masonic lore. Again, this golden sun god was slain by wicked ruffians who personified the evil principle of the universe. By means of certain rituals and ceremonies, symbolic of purification and processes whereby he was resurrected, symbolized those cultures by means of which man is able to overcome his lower nature. You know what that means, right? Master his appetites and give expression to the higher side of himself. The mysteries were organized for the purpose of assisting the struggling human creature to reawaken the spiritual powers which, surrounded by the flaming ring of lust and degeneracy, lay asleep within his soul. In other words, man was offered a way by which he could regain his lost estate. In the ancient world, nearly all secret societies were philosophic and religious. During the medieval centuries, they were chiefly religious and political. Although a few philosophic schools remained, in modern times, secret societies in the Occidental countries are largely political or fraternal, although in a few of them, as in Masonry, the ancient religious and philosophic principles still survive. Space prohibits a detailed discussion of the secret schools. There were literally scores of these ancient cults with branches in all parts of the Eastern and Western worlds, some such as those of Pythagoras and Hermetists show a decided Oriental influence, while the Rosicrucians, according to their own proclamations, gained much of their wisdom from Arabian mystics. Although the mystery schools are usually associated with civilization, there is evidence that the most uncivilized peoples of prehistoric times had knowledge of them. Natives of distant islands, many in the lowest forms of savagery, have mystic rituals and secret practices which, although primitive, are of a decided Masonic tinge. So, again, just to go back to the beginning of this, again, the most important statement really is made in the first paragraph. To read the opening paragraph one more time. When confronted with a problem involving the use of the reasoning faculties, individuals of strong intellect keep their poise and seek to reach a solution by obtaining facts bearing upon the question. Those of immature mentality, on the other hand, when similarly confronted, are overwhelmed. While the former may be qualified to solve the riddle of their own destiny, the latter must be led like a flock of sheep and taught in simple language. They depend almost entirely upon the ministrations of the shepherd. The Apostle Paul said that these little ones must be fed with milk, but that meat is the food of strong men. Thoughtlessness is almost synonymous with childishness, while thoughtfulness is symbolic of maturity. And again, I mean, it really does say that paragraph right there, you could just end the whole book, because that's exactly what's going on in the world. You know, when I was a young person, you know, not to brag about myself, but my teachers would always come to me and say, Zach, you're a special person. Zach, you got a special ability to think and come up with great questions. Zach, you could be a great leader someday. I used to always get this growing up. I also had teachers who hated me for questioning them. So some teachers really didn't like me because I questioned them and the stuff we were learning in class, but other teachers really liked me. It was a love-hate relationship, and it's the same way it is still today. You know? But then 9/11 happened. And 9/11 was an obvious lie, and it required some thinking as to why. Why was this done on 9/11? Why was this made so blatant? This obvious lie, this obvious national emergency on 9/11. What's with all the 11s in the ritual? You know, there were people out there putting out information. The internet was in its infancy, but people were posting things about all the 11s on 9/11 relatively shortly after it happened. And, you know, I was out looking for information and, you know, going, okay, there's definitely something to this. Okay, numerology. What's numerology all about? Again, a lot of questions had to be asked before I came up with answers. And where did the answers come from? From people like this, Manly P. Hall, who have intellect, who asked the right questions, who did the right research. And again, that's what humanity is, like building on each other's shoulders, well, at least the people who are trying to help each other out. Then there's other people trying to tear down everybody who's actually, you know, making progress. And, you know, a lot of Christians think Manly P. Hall was the devil because he pointed out again and again that Christianity was this, you know, simplified story that a man could relate with because it's of another man. You know, it's just easier to grasp. And a lot of Christians think he's evil for explaining that, you know, Christianity is astrotheology, just turned into a person, a story of people instead of, you know, how people used to look at the stars and make sense of the world and recognize patterns. And wait a minute, something's happening to our people at this time of year. I noticed that the people born this time of the year, they have these traits. Anyway, just like it's expressed in the Hermetic teachings, just like it's expressed in the first paragraph, very few people have this intellect that's necessary to solve the problems of our time. And for whatever reason, this seems to be something that has not changed yet. And the Hermetic teachings, and the Bible also says the same thing, you know. All of these texts make the same argument, that there's very few people that have eyes to see, and then there's a large, you know, group of human beings that have low intellect, pretty much hate knowledge and information, pretty much ridicule people with the intellect. And again, you see it every day. And these are the people that are marching along to the drum of the tyrants, you know, with their slave muzzle on, and they've become good guinea pigs for Pfizer and Moderna. And Pfizer does sound a little bit like fertilizer, and before long, these guinea pigs will be that. But anyhow, again, Manly P. Hall, he revealed this knowledge of Gematria in his book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages. And he didn't give you much information about it, but he said, you know, here, just take these ciphers and go out and see what you see. And again, what you see day after day is how, well, just like how he said, I mean, he's talking about there, how the secret societies became political and religious. Well, what do we see every day in the world of politics from our federal government that's controlled by the Catholic Church, the Jesuits, which is all verifiable. It's all a straight line through documented history. The symbolism's everywhere. The rituals are everywhere. But what do we see every single day? You know, tomorrow we're going to get a new White House press secretary at the age of 47. And I shouldn't even have to say any more about that, as much as I've educated about 47 in D.C. And Manly P. Hall obviously knew something about 47 because he waited 47 years to get his 33rd degree in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. That's a stat about Manly P. Hall, who also died 201 days before his birthday. And by the way, in this book, on the 201st page, he writes the conclusion for the book. But notice, this woman's birthday is August 13th, and she's going to officially start her job on May 13th. And that will be exactly 273 days after her birthday. And what's her name equal in Gematria? Karine Jean-Pierre, 273. You know? And, I mean, just think about how simple this is. This is what's sad. We've taken this knowledge, and we've made it really simple and really undeniable and really teachable and learnable. And still, the majority of people don't want to get it. And you still got people who are more into fantasy and belief and opinions rather than truth. And you have to realize that's what the ruling class recognized a long time ago. People are more into belief and, things that you have to imagine than actual verifiable facts. Look at the truth community. Has Gematria ever gone viral? There might have been periods of time where it was on the verge of going viral, but big tech shut it down real fast. At the same time that they made sure flat earth theory, a total belief system that mostly appeals to Christians who are into their belief system, went viral. And then, of course, after about 3 or 4 years of the PSYOP, then they shut it down and equated it with, people who question 9/11. And now it's written about in publications like New York Times all the time. Google's working on censoring people who question 9/11, school shootings, and flat earth theory, like they're all the same thing. And again, I mean, viral topic that millions of people are into, that tons of money's been poured into for merchandise and flat earth meetups and flat earth apps. And again, this has done nothing to further the people of the world. It's just made the truth community look stupid. And it's, for the gullible people, they're now regurgitating the same shit the media is. That, if you question 9/11, that's the same as saying the earth is flat. And like I told you in 2015 when it hit us, I said that's exactly what this is about. This is what they're going to do. They're going to make it look like we're all flat earthers, all of us who are exposing real conspiracies that need to be stopped. And now they want us to argue about the shape of the earth instead of what's going on Earth. And again, this stuff goes on every single day. So the knowledge I teach, which I learned from Manly P. Hall, you can use every single day and prove every single day that this is what the government's doing. Every single day. And notice 273 days is also 39 weeks on the nose, 39. And words like federal masonry and secrecy are 39. D.C. is known as the Masonic City. The Order of the Eastern Stars for women. This woman's surname, Jean-Pierre, 56 and 61, like Washington, D.C. She is a black woman. Black Lives Matter, 56, like Society of Jesus. She's going to be Biden's White House press secretary. Of course, Biden was first in the White House after the 56th presidential election where Obama won, the first black president. Then Kamala takes the White House as the VP at age 56. Then Ketanji Brown Jackson nominated on the 56th day of the year. D.C., Black Lives Matter painted on 5/6 in the streets on Church Street. Society of Jesus, Church Street. Who's running the PSYOPs? It's not hard to see. But again, just the same patterns day after day. Morons will come and go, you're using 1 million ciphers. And again, for the next moron who says that, please be sure to send me $1 million, and I'll be sure to mail you a check back for $4, because we use 4 ciphers, which you think are apparently equivalent to 1 million. So again, just send me that $1 million check. I promise you I'll send you $4 back. And again, that might be the hard way to learn the lesson that 1 million's not the same as 4. And the other thing is these 4 ciphers that I teach, they check out every single day. And like I've always said, if you just know one cipher, you can see enough to understand the ritual. Like why the first black White House press secretary, coming after a string of first black women related to the White House, all have this 56 connection. Because haven't we been teaching about this for years? Haven't we been teaching about this since 2014? By the way, with regards to the Jesuit connection, it is 273 days after her birthday. You could also say it's her 274th day of her age. And in the most simple cipher, Isus Hominum Salvator equals 274, the Jesuit motto. And remember, the Catholic Church has celebrated the birthday of the sun since 274 AD. All of this stuff is historically verifiable, easy to understand. And just like Manly P. Hall's explaining at the beginning, pretty much all this stuff goes back to the pagans and the sun cults. The people who historically understood the world and its knowledge and its wisdom, and they had to create 2 different branches of their teachings. One for people who get it, for the intelligent group, and then another brand for all the dummies. Hello, Christianity. And if that does offend you, I don't care, because I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to wake you up to the bullshit you're allowing to control your life that's leading us all to hell, which includes your fake religion. And then I always get tired of the dumb Christians going, Zach denies God. Where have I ever said I deny a creator? I've always said I believe, I don't like to use that word, but I do believe there is a creator based on the evidence that I see in the world with synchronicity and the signs you get when you're doing right, when you're doing wrong. And like I've also always said, I was raised Lutheran, so I was raised Christian. But as I grew up, I realized that religion was bullshit and it didn't make any sense. And that doesn't mean you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. There were still a lot of good teachings in the religion, but you didn't have to be of the religion to follow the good teachings and live in fear and, succumb to nonsense. So, again, most people just stay children. I'd say I escaped childhood when I was about 12 years old, Then it was time to grow up and be an adult. And realized I was raised to be an adult from a young age. I mean, did your parents leave you at home when you were 7 years old and expect you to feed yourself and take care of all your chores and be to school and do well in school and get your homework done? Because that's how I was raised from the time I was 7 on. We were poor. My parents had to be to work. Kindergarten and first grade, age 5 and 6, they took me to all-day Catholic school because they had all daycare. But by 7, they had me at home taking care of myself anyway. Anyway, you guys, adult topics, what we talk about here. Most people, they just don't have the intellect or the appreciation. And again, it's sad that so many people come and be like, okay, what's the point of knowing this? Well, you should be able to answer that question for yourself. If your federal government every day is contriving rituals to control your mind and everything last thing they do is an occult ritual, that should tell you for what purpose they operate, who they are, and how they manipulate you. Those are all things people need to understand because people don't see how they're being manipulated. Again, it's just like, you just can't help out these little babies. Now, what about Russia, Ukraine? What's the latest? Today, Russia says there will be consequences if Finland joins NATO, and they're joining NATO today. What's funny about Finland joining NATO today? They're going to become the 31st member of NATO. And guess how many weeks after Putin's birthday it is? It's exactly 31 weeks. And with regards to the New World Order, which is the Jesuit order, by the way, I mean, again, the 4 ciphers, you see how they emphasize the word consequences? It's not hard to see why. It's not hard to see why they emphasize consequences. In the base ciphers, it equals 50 and 58. And guess what NATO equals? NATO equals 50 and 58. There'll be consequences if it joins NATO. And they're joining NATO today. And this is all a contrived ritual. And look how obvious it is. Not only is it 31 weeks after Putin's birthday, but the leader of Finland, Sanna Marin, we'll get to her being the 46th prime minister, kind of like Biden's number 46, elected 46 weeks after the Pope's birthday, like when Catholics 46. But from her 36th birthday, November 16th, to today is 177 days later. And as we know, New World Order equals 174 forwards, 177 in reverse. And look at what her full name equals. 174 and 75 like New World Order. And remember, Russia equals 75, and their victory day fell on the 75th day of the conflict, not accidentally. Just like how on the date written 7/5, the Russian boxer shocked the world, beating Canelo Alvarez in the rig fight, which was also while he's age 31. So maybe there's more to this 31 thing. But of course, the Jesuit order is also 177 and 201. And again, this entire conflict's been riddled with 201s. Well, now here comes a big one 177 days after the Finland Prime Minister's birthday. Remember, Klaus Schwab equals 177, the Jesuit who put on the Event 201 simulation, the coronavirus pandemic simulation 1 month before the outbreak. And then the other thing that's interesting is Finland equals 129, which we know is 201 in base 8 counting. So fits in with the other part of the ritual. And then this comes on the 132nd day of the year when Catholic Church is 132, and so is Roman Catholic. Catholic alone's also 46, like Ordo ab Chao, the Latin for order out of chaos. And then this news does come on the 78th day of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, where order out of chaos equals 78 and 183, like North Atlantic Treaty Organization equals 183, like Vladimir Putin equals 183. Remember, they had the big 183 ritual on Putin's 183rd day of his age. Pearl Harbor's also 183, because remember, Biden and Putin met for 2 hours and 1 minute, 201 days after the Ignatian year began on Pearl Harbor Day. And then, of course, Jesuits also 78. And supposedly Putin, did this with Ukraine because they were flirting with joining NATO, and he doesn't want them in NATO, and that's been an ongoing narrative that if Finland joins NATO, if some of these other nations surrounding Russia that used to be part of the Soviet Union, and don't forget how this all started too. The Soviet Union broke up in 91, and then the whole conflict jumped off the week before Gorbachev turned 91. But again, this is just the laid out narrative that they've had, right? That Putin doesn't want these countries in NATO. This is why he's doing this. And it's just none of this makes any sense. Like, Russia's this major military power with all this weaponry and massive population, huge military, that they'd be able to steamroll Ukraine if they wanted to. It'd be over in a day. Remember how Ukraine was passing out, like, rifles from the World War II era? That was the story at the beginning. Russia, who has a modern, massive military, can't steamroll the unprepared little teeny tiny nation with practically muskets from the Civil War. Again, none of this makes any sense. It's because all of these nations are in bed together. All they have to do is create the narrative and the story to keep upping the conflict so that we can be told through the news that, oh, because of this conflict, energy prices are up, food costs is up, oh, they just stole grain, that could mess with world commodity markets, so your food prices are going to rise anymore. All this is New World Order manipulation. It's bullshit every day, contrived by a code to manipulate us for the sake of their agenda. It's just so obvious. And again, here's NATO with its 30 member nations. It's about to go up to 31. And notice, from Putin's birthday to today is exactly 31 weeks. You don't think this is all perfectly orchestrated between all the participating nations? You got to be brain dead. You got to be a little infant. By the way, today also has the 39 date numerology. Finland's 39. In other news, the news is really viral today, but the interview was given yesterday. Ashley Judd yesterday was interviewed by Good Morning America. Let me get the right here. Ashley appeared Wednesday, so that was yesterday, on Good Morning America to speak out about her mother's death. She used a weapon. My mother used a firearm, Ashley said. So that's the piece of information that we were very uncomfortable sharing, but understand that we're in a position that if we don't say it, someone else is going to. Well, it was nice of them to wait 11 days, that 11 again, and wait till May 11th, the 131st day of the year, because remember, gun control is 131. Remember when Gavin Newsom just gave his speech on gun control on February 18th, 2022, 131 days after his birthday? The CDC just put out their report the other day about how much guns contribute to suicide rates. Isn't it fair to assume that if people want to kill themselves, if a gun's not there, they might find another way to do it, like a knife or drowning or jumping off a building or, closing themselves in a garage and letting their car run, all the other ways people commit suicide? But realize this is one of the tactics they use for gun control. And remember when Gavin Newsom gave his speech, he gave it on the 49th day of the year, February 18th, about gun control, 131 days after his birthday. And keep in mind, the other way that gun control fits in with her ritual, gun control is also 139, which is the 34th prime number, and suicide equals 34. So I suppose there's one more connection. And don't forget, after Gavin Newsom gave his gun control, you had the shooting reported at 2:01 a.m. in the morning, 44 days later, right next to the state capitol, right next to the police headquarters. But 44 days later, you got the shooting and the perfect ritual, synced up with the basketball game like we talked about between the Warriors and the Kings. And again, it's the same stuff over and over and over. And it was clearly synced with the Pope, too. Gavin Newsom's a Jesuit, first Jesuit Pope. First one to live in Suite 201 with the 201 birth name. But yeah, it's not hard to see why on the 131st day of the year they got to bring a gun into it. And don't forget, like, how messed up her ritual was. She died on the 56th birthday of the Church of Satan. Church of Satan equals 56, like Society of Jesus, right after the 56th Country Music Awards, which happened earlier in the month. And then the day before she was admitted into the Country Music Hall of Fame on the anniversary of the establishment of the Illuminati, which was founded by a Jesuit, Society of Jesus 56, Light 56, on 5/6, the comic. Is it Marvel who just put out the Doctor Strange movie? It's either Marvel or DC. I'm not big on the comic scene, but I know they just put out the movie with the Illuminati character on 5/6, like Light is 56. In other news, we have the same news that they gave us as brand new news April 10th, 2019. So what is the meaning of this? This is today's news, May 12th, 2022. First image of black hole at the center of the Milky Way galaxy captured. And it's also taken by the Event Horizon. That used to be a Hollywood movie. Event Horizon Telescope. Well, it's like, when I saw this today, I was like, wait a minute. I remember covering this sometime in the back. So I typed in Event Horizon Telescope on my old website, and here it is. April 10th, 2019. First image of a black hole released April 10th, 2019 by Event Horizon Telescope. I mean, notice it's the exact same photo, right? It's the same picture. It's the same picture. And this is the first photo of a black hole. Again, this is April 10th, 2019, you guys. All the details of the story are the exact same. So I pointed out how that story came on a 33-date numerology, black hole and orange equal 33, since they're showing it as orange, like masonry, like secrecy, like order, like federal. And what's funny is from April 10th to May 12th, that's 32 days later, or that's a span of 33 days. So it's 3 years. Here, let's just put it in the calculator so you can see. April 10th, 2019 to May 12th, 2022 is a span of 3 years. Well, it's 3 years. Here, let's do it this way. Let's just say from the anniversary, which would have been April 10th, 2022. It's a span of 33 days. You know? 3 years, 33 days. I don't know what just happened to the graphic, but there it is. I mean, and again, in the most pure cipher, if you could only have one, that dark blue cipher. Black hole. Orange. I mean, like, what gives? How are you going to report the exact same story of the exact same object like it's brand new? Like we live in the United States of amnesia, like nobody can remember anything past yesterday. There's no way they'll remember we did this 3 years ago. I mean, this just shows you what a joke your news is. This is a big news story today. Never before happened, but it happened 3 years ago. 3 years and 33 days ago. I mean, it's the exact same story. So it does remind a bit of Soundgarden's Black Hole Sun, Super Unknown album. That album came out on March 8th, the day they can be written 8-3. Supermassive Black Hole 83. Chris Cornell, remember he died of the year of the Great American Total Solar Eclipse. Black Hole Sun equals 201 in the most simple, or actually it's when you run it inverse. And Chris Cornell's birthday is the 201st day of the year. And, made the song up in Seattle, Jesuit land where Seattle U is. Remember the Oddfellows organization turned 201 when the autonomous zone was going on right next to the Oddfellows building in Seattle U, the Jesuit school. It's obvious there's a connection with the Oddfellows and the Jesuits. But Chris Cornell's birthday is July 20th, 201st day of the year, anniversary of the moon landing. Neil Alden Armstrong, 201. And then remember on his birthday, Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park supposedly also hung himself, committed suicide. And both of them have songs about eclipses. It was the year of the Great American Solar Eclipse. A little bit before it happened. It was in August. But yeah, the Black Hole Sun music video, if you haven't seen it, maybe check it out. Here's a screenshot from it. The end is nigh. It's biblical. And there's young Chris Cornell. By the way, Event Horizon, the name of the telescope, equals 54, 72, and 153, like Jesuit order. And they're saying that the photo is from image of Sagittarius A. Sagittarius has that gematria, like Jesuit order as well. But, yeah, literally reporting the exact same story from 3 years ago as if it never happened. For the first time, this is today, for the first time, astronomers have captured an image of a supermassive black hole at the center of our galaxy. It's the first direct observation confirming the presence of the black hole known as Sagittarius A as the beating heart of the Milky Way. Black holes don't emit light, but the image shows the shadow of the black hole surrounded by a bright ring, which is light bent by the gravity of the black hole. Astronomers said that the black hole is 4 million times more massive than our sun. Really? Don't forget, heliocentrism's 201, just like the Jesuit order. And again, it was arrived at in the same century the Jesuits were created. Same century. Pretty much history from the 16th century on has been by the numbers. But yeah, this is bizarre. This is bizarre. To report the exact same news story like it was never reported before from 3 years ago. And I don't know if they screwed up. Probably not, in light of how they did it in a span of 33 days from the last one. But here, we'll just go back. We'll read. We'll read. So this is the reporting from April 10th, 2019. In April 2017, scientists used a global network of telescopes to see and capture the first ever picture of a black hole, according to an announcement by researchers at the National Science Foundation Wednesday morning. So this wasn't announced, though, until April 10th, 2019. They captured an image of the supermassive black hole and its shadow at the center of a galaxy known as M87. Oh, actually, okay, maybe it is slightly different. All right, maybe it is slightly different. I did this when I first got out of bed. So, okay, they're actually saying that today's black hole is at the center of our galaxy, whereas this one was at the center of a different galaxy. Okay. Doesn't that seem weird? Why would we be able to capture a black hole in a different galaxy further away before we capture the picture of our own? Okay, so I see. This one was actually the first ever picture of a black hole, period. And then today's is a picture of our own black hole at our own galaxy. Again, somebody's going to need to explain to me how we'd be able to find a picture of one further away first before. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But still, yeah, also, again, just the span of 33 days. So, okay, that's the difference. Our own galaxy. Okay. At least we made more sense of it. But what are the odds that it would have the 33 connection? And then we did cover this last night, but in case you missed last night's live stream, Bob Lanier, former NBA great, dead at 73, the sacrifice number. Remember, ritual sacrifice equals 73 with numerology. Without the numerology, sacrifice is 73 alone. There's 73 books in the Catholic Bible. He was a Catholic educated. And he died while his Catholic school is in its 165th year of existence. Bob Lanier, 165. And he also died on a 57 date numerology. Bob Lanier, 57. It was a date with lesser numerology of 37. He played for two teams in the NBA, Milwaukee and Detroit, which are both 37. And after his death, Milwaukee upset the Boston Celtics. And don't forget when the Bucks won the finals on the 201st day of the year after the Kyle Rittenhouse 201 ritual. And on the same day, the Bucks were at the White House. The other Bucks, the Tampa Bay Bucks, were at the White House to be greeted by Joe Biden, along with Giselle, born on the 201st day of the year after Brady had 201 passing yards in the game. Man whose career has been defined by 201, got his first ever career win in the only 201 city, Indianapolis. Again, Tom Brady, go back and read the ESPN article from 2016, The Road to 201 Wins, about Tom Brady getting it over the Rams, the only team that have a 201 connection in terms of team names. That's because the Jewish Gematria Rams is 201, who he beat in Super Bowl 36. But, for another familiar pattern, Bob Lanier is dead 38 years after leaving the NBA. His NBA career finished 38 years ago. As we know, death, murder, killing, RIP, all 38. He became a Hall of Famer 30 years ago. 30 teams in the NBA. The National Basketball Association 113, the 30th prime. And, yeah, so just same patterns over and over. Playoffs, teams that are playing, their former players are dead right before the game. In the news, like yesterday, the news broke yesterday before the Bucks upset the Celtics as 5-point dogs. And yeah. So R.I.P. And shout out to Kayla. Kayla did a great decode last night on the wildfire, unprecedented wildfire in New Mexico. And would you believe it? Would you believe it? It started on April 6th, this fire did, 4/6. And it started 201 days before the governor's upcoming birthday. And that should remind you of JFK's speech on weather control, and how JFK's speech was about how we can use the technology of the times to make sure there's no more droughts, to make sure there's no more starvation. And again, he gave a speech September 25th, 1961 on weather control. Notice how it's just like the Jesuit order. And again, it was 9 years after the Royal Air Force admitted that they had the ability to make it rain. The Lynmouth flood, where they killed 30-some people with the unprecedented flash flood. But JFK, 9 years later, is echoing the technology of the times, the ability for militaries to essentially do chemistry in the sky to attract moisture and make it rain. And, he's given a speech about how weather control could make it better for humanity. But we see what's going on now with the derecho in Iowa 2 years ago and all the other stuff we've been documenting over the years. Pretty sure this weather control is being used for the exact opposite reasons. It's just like he's expressing here, that there's this beautiful ancient knowledge, but as time, he's making the point there in what I was reading in the beginning, that as time's gone on, the knowledge has crept into the hands of the psychopaths and the politicians and the religious people who want to control others, and now they're using it for their own nefarious purposes. And isn't that what we're exposing every day, how they're using this occult knowledge to essentially destroy quality of life, to keep people in fear, divided? And what do you know? A crazy fire starts in New Mexico 201 days before the governor's birthday. Isn't it funny how it always seems to be synced up with the governor? All these terrible things that happen in states seems to always point in the same direction, the same number patterns. It's like, here's the idea. We have this technology to influence weather. We can do it for the better. Does that also mean we can do it for the worse? That's what happens when the psychopaths rule. And why do psychopaths rule? Because good people do nothing. So, good people laugh at facts. Oh, it's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Well, lo and behold, and you got kids you got literally kids now making fun of the work who were born in the 2000s after shit's gotten crazier than ever. And they're laughing at things that have been known among the knowledgeable for 40, 50 years before they were even around. Now they think it's so stupid because they grew up in front of the television, listening to the liars, getting programmed with all the same bullshit, and they think the truth is a joke. So, be sure to subscribe to Kayla Decode Talker if you haven't. I linked her video on my post here too. She covered this last night before TFR. I missed it. Kayla Decode Talker doing great work. And then what I was surprised about when she came out to Oklahoma City is I was talking to her about how long she's been following the work. And she said that the first video of mine she ever saw was my video on the ritual that took place September 27th, 2019, with the Nationals beating the Indians on their way to sneaking into the playoffs and winning the World Series. And Kayla took to that because she's Native American. It was about Geronimo's skull and bones and the ritual of the game that day. Again, the knowledge pays, but I was surprised that Kayla's only been around since, I mean, that's not even 3 years ago yet. So it seems like Kayla's been around for way longer than that, but that's just because of the impact she's had. She's done a great job putting out her own work and research, and it feels like, I thought she'd been here since like at least 2017, but nope, turns out just since the end of 2019. So, but yeah, I think that's all for now. Let me make sure there's no other breaking headlines today on the 132nd day of the year. Remember, the thing to know about the number 132, United States of America equals 132. So does Roman Catholic. So does Catholic Church. The United States of America was named that on September 9th, 1776, a span of 132 days from the establishment of the Illuminati, May 1st, 1776, which is Jesuit, which is Catholic. So, again, 132, very relevant number to this nation and the Catholic Church. And then the thing about the country being named on 9/9, again, United States of America does have the gematria of 132. 132. 132 rooms in the White House. We're talking about how tomorrow, Friday the 13th, is 339 days after what happened on Friday the 13th in Paris, France. Or did I say days? I mean weeks. But, in the most simple cipher, Roman Catholic's 132, and Catholic Church is also 132. And if I'm not mistaken, astrological is 132. Yeah. But the other part of that is 9/9, the day that they named the country. If you write out the United States of America, put a the in front of it, it's 99 in the most pure cipher, like being named on 9/9. And the Illuminati was established on a date with 99 numerology, 5 plus 1 plus 17 plus 76. And again, when you write out 13, it's 99, like 13 families to start the Illuminati, 13 colonies to start the U.S., 13 stripes, 13 years of slave school, 13 layers of bricks on the dollar bill with all the Illuminati symbolism. But again, this is why, like, if anybody ever argues with you, like, well, sometimes you're putting the in front of it and other times you're not. Again, just show them, well, isn't that fair? Isn't that how we use the English language? Did we create the English language? Did we create this number system? No, but it just checks out. It's all so perfect. So the checks out with the exact day it was named. The 132 checks out with the Catholic Jesuit Illuminati establishment and the naming of the country. Again, we didn't do that. We just recognized it thanks to the teachings of other people and are now showing it and how often these patterns persist. You know, do you think it's an accident that the first Roman Catholic Supreme Court Justice, Antonin Scalia, his name equals 132 and 219, just like Roman Catholic, and his body laid in repose after his death by the numbers that was foreshadowed in a Family Guy cartoon on 219, February 19th? Do you think that's a coincidence? Of course it's not. It's a sick ritual, like what goes on every day. And some are sicker than others, you know? It's like, I mean, this one won't nearly as offend you as much, right? I mean, this isn't nearly as offensive that the woman who's 47 years old finally climbs to the top of her position in D.C. and, you know, it comes 273 days after her birthday going with her name. Like, that's not nearly as disgusting as all the people who die by the numbers, the wars that are started by the numbers, the bombs we drop on people by the numbers, the big lies that scare the shit out of people by the numbers. You know, some of these rituals aren't nearly as, you know, they're not nearly as provoking. But, I mean, still, it goes to show that every last little thing they're doing there is by the numbers every day. Every last ritual is carried out this way. And why? Because just like it says in the beginning of the book, this knowledge, you know, it's been hijacked by the people who are of the religious and the political, like the Catholic Church and the governments of the world, which are controlled by the Catholic Church. All right. I see somebody got generous with the super chat, so let me say thank you. And be sure to check out Kayla's video when I'm done. Be sure to support the other people in the community doing the good work. We do have some sociopaths out there who are learning the knowledge too. There's a guy who just uploaded a video that's totally sociopathic. I'm sure some people will believe what he said, but that's okay. The people who will believe him, they don't have the eyes to see. But there's a guy who's just telling deliberate 100% opposite falsehoods of what's really going on. Hold on, Itachi's calling in too. What's up, Itachi?
Not much, Zach. Just, I missed a lot of the stream. Unfortunately, you're going to go back and watch. Did you kind of mention how, the 133rd day of the year and her being 47 and a black woman is kind of like maybe a foreshadowing of Kamala?
Well, I did talk about, her surname equaling 56. Now that goes with Kamala and Ketanji Brown Jackson and Obama. And, that's a good point because president equals 47 and 133, and she's taking office on the 133rd day of the year. So, I agree with your observation.
They've been doing some weird riddles. Like the day Biden was sick with COVID, the NCAA president stepped down. So it's like kind of like, they're signaling. It's like, okay, the president's sick, and we're going to have the NCAA president step down. Like same day. That was a few weeks ago. And Kamala, remember I sent you that tweet from like some agent working for the Washington Post who said, "Happy 56th birthday to Kamala, but I like to think of her as 47." Do you remember I sent you that? Some screenshot from Ann J. Paris.
When did you send it to me?
It's been a while now, but I remember you acknowledged it. It's like a verified account from Washington Post. I could send it to you after the stream.
Yeah, send it to me again, man. I so many things that because I get so much information, I do forget things. So.
Gotcha. And then one last thing about the 47. Kamala's mom died on 2/11.
The 42nd day of the year.
Yeah, the 42nd day of the year, but it's also
2/11,
the
47th prime.
47th prime.
Same day the Vatican was established in history for people who don't know.
Yeah. So, and then one crazy riddle. Chigozi found this. So her mom dies on the 42nd day of the year, and if you fast forward 4,200 days, it's August 11th, 2020, when she's selected as VP. So, just a major 42 ritual.
Okay.
I just want to say that president riddle, I think they're just kind of doing all this foreshadowing. And here's another example. This black woman, 133rd day of the year. I didn't know she was 47 until he said it. So, yeah, great work, man. Just wanted to add that.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks, Itachi.
Peace.
All right, take care. Itachi's earned his own brand of trolls these days. He's got people trolling him online. So, the person who left the super chat, they went by the name Destroyer of Simps. And they wrote, R.I.P. Kevin Samuels. He was a one-man army against the cancer of feminism. Advocated for families, bringing men and women together, strong masculine men and feminine women. He hurt the cabal agenda. Well, again, maybe he's got some videos that said some good things, but and a lot of my free time out doing yard work, mowing the lawn, I've probably been able to watch about 4 hours of Kevin Samuels' work since he died. And in that 4 hours, I probably nodded my head in agreement to maybe one thing he said, and I heard a lot of things that just made me cringe. Again, I don't see him as a man advocating for good family values. He didn't have a family himself and was twice divorced. He was advocating that if you make enough money and you have a wife, your wife should turn her head the other way if you cheat on her. I mean, there probably are plenty of houses. I used to have a customer who was an older woman, and she was always trying to set me up with her daughter. But I was already with Sweet Lady. I would say, "Oh, I got Sweet Lady," but she'd say things like, "Yeah, you men, you're always cheating, and if you find a good one, you just got to stick with them and the other way." So like that would have been Kevin Samuels' woman. But I mean, you can't be telling men that if they make enough money, that it's okay to cheat. I mean, that's why his relationships probably didn't work out. And look at how he died, as a relatively young person under mysterious circumstances with a young woman on I don't know if it was a one-night affair or sometimes, I don't know what it was, but, the stuff he was advocating for actually seems to be what ended up in his demise, right? Kind of like promoting, a non-moral lifestyle. I mean, cheating. If you're, I'm sure there's marriages out there where people agree to have an open relationship. I mean, that's a different story. But he's saying that if you make enough money and you cheat, and again, I mean, I know where he's coming from as a man. It's like it's in our nature. Like, but that's not when most women marry a man. They don't expect like, okay, we're gonna be married, and okay, sometimes you're gonna cheat, but I'm gonna look the other way because you make a good salary. I mean. So, I mean, he was saying that. I heard him say it in multiple different things that I watched. He talked about in his Vlad interview and in another video of his I was watched. He made everything in relationships about looks and materialism. I mean, he berated women on his show who were attractive. He had this beautiful young woman on his show, and she was the one making the logical points. He just kept cutting her off and just saying, any more of that, you're going to be off my show. And it's like... What? Because she's trying to advocate for what's positive about her? So I can't say that Kevin Samuels, it just looked like a poison pill. And again, I mean, Future. He ends up collaborating with Future. Future's a poison pill. What are we going to be saying? Future's good for the black community? What's his big song? To do Percocets? To do Molly and Percocets? I guess Future's doing good for the black community because he's saying get wasted, and it feels good to get wasted on Molly and Percocets. I suppose he's also a black modern-day leader like Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels says make your whole life about materialism, looks, and money, and Future's about, do the Molly and Percocets. It's a good feeling. So I guess these are our black leaders, huh? And it's sad that people are saying that Kevin Samuels was truth because he didn't have any facts. All he spoke was from his own opinions. And where do his own opinions come from? He wasn't really a businessman. He never had a business. He delivered yellow pages to people's doorsteps. That's usually a job for people who can't get a job. And yeah, he wasn't teaching knowledge to bring men and women together. He was like shitting on people. He's always making fun of women for being overweight. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but a lot of people are overweight, and a lot of times people of darker complexions tend to be even more overweight than the rest of the country, which is mostly overweight. And that's usually because of demographics and poverty and only access to cheap carbohydrate-ridden foods that balloon your body. But... when these women overweight called into his show, he wasn't nice to them and he didn't give them constructive feedback on how they could work. He just talked shit about them and hung up on them and laughed at them and got famous and rich off it, apparently. So, no, I couldn't ever... I appreciate the donation. Looks like it was more of an advertisement for Kevin Samuels, but I don't see... again, maybe he had some stuff out there, but in 4 hours of content, I could have checked if I had a positive, negative side, I would have checked the positive box like one time, and I would have been checking the negative box a whole lot. So there's no way I could say that this guy was doing good for any community. And... yeah, again, the fact that people think opinions are truths is also sad. I didn't hear the guy talking truth. I heard him talking about opinions and just, again, echoing everything that's already wrong with society, making everything about materialism and money. And those could be the two most destructive things in our society. So... okay, he might have advocated for couples to stick together, but if you're also going to put out there that a woman should turn her head the other way if her man's cheating, I mean, essentially you're telling men that what do you call them, high value men, that then it's okay to cheat if you're a high value man if you make $10,000 or more a month. So family might stick together, but then there might be all this negative energy, and that will not be good for the family or the children. So. Again, I mean, if you're saying stick together, but then advocating for cheating if you make enough money, you're essentially like, you're not really saying anything. Your talk is cheap. And again, Kevin Samuels, never a businessman, never had a business in his life. Didn't seem to have any good job in his resume. It's like, I don't know. I guess he figured out how to pick up a cheap suit and appeal to ignorant people who don't know anything about anything. Again, to me, it seems like... I don't know. I think there's a lot of people in the world that are bitter and scorned by the opposite sex, men and women, and that's who he appealed to. That's who his audience was. So, again, there's a lot of problems in the world. A lot of people are mad, and hater culture is a real thing, and I think that's who his audience was. People who've been scorned by women, people who've been scorned by men. So... But again, I don't know how you're going to get relationship advice from a guy who can't hold together a marriage and, a guy who's just, well, a guy who now ended up dead after, essentially a one-night stand having some mysterious woman over. So, and from also what I understood from the pictures of the woman I saw, she was pretty chunky. And I did hear in one of his videos saying that he didn't deal with women like that. He was into model types, thin type bodies. I heard him talking about that in a video. Well, the woman that was over there for the one-night stand, she wasn't a thin type body. She was a thick woman. Kind of the ones like that he said were fives. And I saw women like that in his live streams, and he referred to them as fat. And they're not even really fat. They're just thicker. So, I mean, it looked like a guy that was talking a bunch of shit, didn't probably really mean anything he said. And just another fraud personality in the world. And again, for all of you guys who like Kevin Samuels, I don't really give a shit. I get annoyed when people say guys like that are truth tellers. There wasn't any truth in his program. Nothing but opinions, and opinions from what? Opinions with nothing behind it. So... D26 has another chat. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it, Sarah. Thank you. D26 says he has another. Here, let's just go to D26's Twitter. When people tag me, I don't even know where to see it at. Is this his page? All right. I don't think that's the post he wanted us to see. I know about USA 311, but yeah, that is interesting about how it goes with 201. That was one of the first things I ever observed, because in my earliest days, I was focusing a lot on Russia and the United States. And St. Petersburg, the capital, they moved it from St. Petersburg on March 11th, if I remember right in history. And I was like, man, that date comes up a lot in history, 311. We've talked about it so many more times since. Okay, I saw your BBC one. People might say, well, they don't really refer to it with the in the front, but it is still interesting when you do put the there. The BBC is run by Jesuits, so... And the thing is, if you don't put the BBC in front of it, or if you don't put the in front of it, British Broadcasting Company, it's got the... Wait a minute, is that right? BBC stands for... Wait. Corporation, that's why it's wrong. I was like, wait a minute, those aren't the numbers. It's got the 153 in it, like Jesuit order. So no matter how you swing it, it's got the Jesuit connection. And again, there's Jesuits at the head of the company. The current New York Times guy, who's a Jesuit, he used to run the BBC. Oh, there's the secret teachings of all ages. This is interesting. This is interesting how that part of the plant is all dying right there. And there's these transmitters. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, the Holocaust survivor one, indeed. Indeed. All right, I think I saw it. Again, D26, great person to follow on Twitter. Warren K, a great person to follow on Twitter. He knows there was another 33 thing today with Russia, Ukraine. The United Nations Human Rights Council passed a resolution in a 33-2 vote on Thursday. Funny how the same numbers are always coming up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just about the Kevin Samuels thing, it's like, from what I understand, he wasn't that big of a guy. He's 5'8", but just one of the things I was watching, a guy called in and he said, I'm having trouble getting getting in a relationship. And Kevin Samuels, the first thing he said to him was something like, he's like, well, do you got a big dick? Because I got a big dick. And it's like, that's the first question you're going to ask the guy calling into your show? And what black guys are bragging about having a big dick anyway? It makes me think he didn't have a big dick. You know, most black guys, that isn't something they have to brag about. It's just by default. But and then he asked him another question. He's like, "Are you fat? Are you overweight?" And the guy was like, "Well, I forget what he said." He's like, "So you're fat then? So you're fat?" So he's like, "You're fat and you got a small dick." He's like, and then he hangs up on him. It was like, "What kind of fucking show is this, man?" What? Like the only way to get away. I mean, it's just. Oh, man, I mean, this Kevin Samuels guy, all you guys taken by this guy, here's what I got to assume about Kevin Samuels. I said this to somebody else's comment. I got to assume that every Kevin Samuels, follower is somebody who really doesn't know anything about anything, you know? Somebody who's never had any luck with ladies. They're out there looking for guys. He ended up in their feed because YouTube made him viral, and they thought this was the man because he's got all these views. And again, I just look at him, I'm just like, I don't reflect with anything this guy's saying, man. And then I look into you and I say, okay, first marriage didn't last a year. Second marriage didn't last 3 years. Unclear about your relationship. Sounds like you're in the closet and don't want to admit it, which is fine. It's just like, I mean, just, you know, disingenuous person, man. Life is all about materialism and money in Kevin Samuels' world. There's no quicker way to feeling empty inside than being all about money and materialism. Guarantee ya. So. Yeah, well, somebody just brought it up in the super chat, and then I see other people just writing comments. So, again, it's still on people's mind. And for you guys saying we're still going on about this, again, those kind of comments also speak to something that's wrong in our society. Kevin Samuels reportedly died when? Last week on May 5th. Today is 7 days later. 7 days. That's not that long a time. I have people do that all the time with 9/11. They're like, 9/11, man, that was like 20 years ago. Okay, so it was 20 years ago. Has there been justice for that day? Are the agendas related to 9/11 still going on? People act like there's some expiration on topics. A topic's relevant as long as it's relevant. You know? So. I got to give Mr. Yes Sir a wrench. Looks like he changed his channel name, though. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now, you guys. Let me do one more double check, make sure there's nothing breaking in the headlines. I have a feeling that tomorrow's going to be busy. I have a feeling that Friday the 13th is going to be busy. The Kentucky Derby winner's not going to run in the Preakness. It's probably still coming down off its turbo stimulants. Probably got to let its heart chill a little bit before it blows up. So it's sad, man. The horse racing thing is sick. All the horses they kill at Santa Anita ritualistically, what they did with Medina Spirit last year. God knows what they had that horse on that just won the race. D26, the master of the 201 find. Cathan. Interesting, D26. North Korea declared lockdown after one case of corona. Is that in the news today? Here, let's check that out real quick. North Korea lockdown. North Korea confirms first COVID outbreak. I mean, first COVID outbreak, man. It's just like... I mean, how's that even possible? They're way closer to China than we are. Here, we got to look at this one real quick. We're going to do this one real quick. So it looks like it was yesterday's news. It is in the news today, but... Well, 19 hours ago probably still would have been today, actually, in North Korea, because they're ahead of us. Let's see. So this did happen Thursday. Okay, so Thursday. So May 12th, 2022. Now, if I'm not mistaken, North Korea does have that Catholic number in it. It does have 53 like COVID. Remember how they changed Kim Jong-un's birthday years ago? If you guys have followed me long enough, you remember we covered it 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row, CNN talked about Kim Jong-un's 33rd birthday. They changed his year of birth from when I first started this work, he had the same birth year as me, 1983. And then the year he turned 33, so he turned 33 in 2016 and in 2017. In 2017, they changed his birthday to 1984. And CNN did cover his 33rd birthday in back-to-back years, which we had documented at the time. But anyhow, January 8th. Okay, so today is the 132nd day of the year. So that means today's Kim Jong-un's 125th day of his age. It's 124 days after the birthday. But look at that. Look how easy that was to figure out in just in a second. The ritual. And again, it's just another puppet state. Kim Jong-un, the axis of evil, Iran, all these states are puppet states controlled by the same people that control the United States of America. It's why their rituals are always so perfect. But today's is 125th day of his age. 125th day of his age. In the most simple cipher, North Korea 125. And then North Korea's 53 like COVID. What do you know? Another coincidence. And here, first case of COVID, so... Let's just measure from the day they declared the pandemic to today to see how long it took for North Korea to get their first case of COVID. 113 weeks in a day. Coronavirus pandemic's 113. It would be a span of 793 days. Let me see if that's prime. 793, I'm not sure. No, it's not prime. But yeah, I mean, how stupid. What do you mean North Korea is controlled by the same people as America? They're communists. Okay, what are we? Communism. Definition. Corporations control the state. Business and corporations are one and the same. Fascism. Non-stop propaganda on TV. I mean, what's the difference? We get to choose our leaders. We do? Really? Okay. They're having elections in communist China, too. So the media says there's been doubts the whole time that there was a... So if there's been doubts the whole time, why would they finally own up to there being a case of COVID in the nation? They're just following the same script everybody else is. Playing their part as the world's boogeyman. Well, I get why on Kim Jong-un's the 125th day of his age, it took all of 5 seconds to solve. And then again, the 113 weeks after the pandemic was declared on 11/3. That's probably not arbitrary either. It's also 26 months in a day. COVID is also 26. We were just saying how COVID's 53 like North Korea. It's also 26. Like virus. like China, like plague. So that's how you know when somebody's giving you truth, when the information just lines up, you know. How many times have I decoded something on air and it's a perfect alignment in a minute or less? It's pretty much like every time we've ever done it, right? You're just cherry picking. Nope. It's just lining up that way day after day. So Harden got $76 million this year on the 76th pro basketball season. Funny. Yeah, there was the story that he was dead. Remember when the media reported that he was dead and his sister was in control, and then the next day they said, oh, never mind. Yeah. Yeah. There's been South Korea's done a number of films with like zombie stuff and virus lately. The first one they put out had a big old 201 in it. It was like Building 201. I got to go back and see what that was. That's interesting, D26. But at the same time, D26, we don't want to like dilute it by like, we don't want to dilute the 201 by kind of like manipulating things into being 201. I mean, just take what's there because there's just so many day after day. It's just like here in the U.S., our new government head of disinformation, her name is 201 and she's Jesuit educated, right? It's like those examples are way more powerful and convincing. Understanding that number is about the Jesuits, just how many of their agents it's coded on. So, Train to Busan is another zombie virus movie, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. That actually might have been the first one. Then there was another one that came out. There's like an outbreak. It starts in a building. I want to say it's about 2 years old now, but they're looking at Building 201. We covered it probably 2 years ago. If I could remember the name of the film, I'd look it up. So, and don't forget the film Between, which Netflix put up at the beginning of the pandemic, where the medical building's 201. All right, but yeah, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who hit the like. Bird Box isn't a Korean film. Nope, that's not the one. It's a Korean film. But anyway, we'll leave it there. Again, I think tomorrow's going to be busy. So Friday the 13th, we'll see what they got for us. Till next time, Truth Seeker.